Okay, how about Had a little audio trouble. I've been having problems with the audio with Restream Studio. Okay, good morning, everybody, and this should be an especially interesting morning because, of course, I'm doing a show about hot women on the right, and the first 4 comments in the chat are my wife, my mother-in-law, my aunt, and a friend of ours that's coming over to hang out and grill burgers with the kids later today. So Trish says can't hear you. I hope that's delayed comment. So ladies, let me know if you can hear me now. But the impetus for this show this morning, I'm going to go ahead and proceed as if you can hear me, and hopefully one of you guys will tell me good, bad, right, or wrong. Let me just see if we can hear me over here. Okay. Y'all let me know if you're getting audio. Okay. Trish says she can hear me now. Good. So hopefully you got all that. Wow, the chat is just filling up with nothing but women this morning. That is perfect. Shouldn't affect how the show goes, but here's what we're going to do. Frankly, there's a story that I want to talk about, and it's illustrative of the difference philosophically between the way that the left and the right view beauty. And so here's the article. It's entitled "How Hot Girls Became the Right's New Obsession." Okay. Let me clarify something, ladies. And the comments that I'm seeing in the chat right now, these are ladies who know me, and so this should not come as a shock to anyone. We like pretty girls. Okay, this is not a new obsession of the right. We like pretty girls. And that's not a thing that is exclusive to the right, as much as they're going to try to make that argument in this article. The fact is, men and women like pretty girls. But there's more to it than pretty girls. This is not entirely a sex thing. In fact, there is so much more to it than the sex act or the mechanics of physical attraction, that the question of sexuality and sexual appeal is almost irrelevant to the argument. Because what's really being discussed here and should really, really consume a great deal of your mental faculty on the question of attractiveness, as I'll illustrate in more detail with images from this year's Fashion Week, especially the New York Fashion Week, is that what we see when we see something that is beautiful, whether it's a pretty girl or a brightly colored shirt that was lovingly and painstakingly tailored to fit a giant man by a loving wife, what we see when we see something beautiful and recognize that a thing is beautiful is we see its direct connection to divinity, its direct connection to goodness, to the good, to purity, to clarity, to truth, and to the state of natural being. So, we're going to begin on this with some Platonic philosophy. Plato posited a world that includes what is called the forms. In fact, he referred to it as the world of the forms. And the form is the pure, essential composition that allows us the idea of a thing. Now, Aristotle made the contrary argument that no, we understand what things are because we understand the thing itself in reality. So Aristotle would argue that we can only have the idea of a horse because we have seen horses in reality. Whereas Plato would argue that there is a form of horse, there is a perfect horse that is the correct and most precise expression of the meaning of horse in the world. This is true in all things that we observe. You're familiar with the axiom that the eyes are the window to the soul. Well, the thing about windows is you see both ways. They're not reflective. It's not like the mirror in the hotel room that you put your finger up to and you see a gap because somebody's watching you from the other side. Yeah, check that one out sometime. I see Uncle Steve's pulling double duty on Twitter and YouTube. I appreciate that. So, when a man sees a pretty girl, he doesn't just start fantasizing about sex and and even in a more wholesome way, fantasizing about, hey, maybe that's the future Mrs. Lowry, right? Maybe that's the future mother of my children, and that's something that's good and pure and should be pursued. Now, when I met my wife, that was part of the math. I saw a pretty girl, and that was enough to begin the kind of the investigation. Hey, she's good looking. Is she smart? Is she decent? Is she funny? And there begins the interrogation where I'm going, I can start with this woman is healthy, attractive, capable, competent. Let me get to know her and explore, is this somebody that I can have a conversation with? Is this somebody that I share values with? Is this somebody with whom I can raise children without constantly arguing over whether, what's religion going to be like in the house? What's morality going to be like in the house? Are we going to constantly argue over politics? And are my kids going to grow up with one parent arguing for abortion and one parent arguing against it? That kind of, so the aesthetic is a very important part of that, just the dating process, but at a much more fundamental and but expansive degree, what you see and what you perceive to be beautiful is your innate ability to recognize good. That's solid right there. Thank you, dear. But does she get my jokes? There have been more than one occasion where the wife and I have laid awake in bed for longer than we probably should have because I made a joke and she started laughing. And there's this moment that I can recognize when I know that she's not just getting my jokes, but she's fallen into this dangerous trap where she got the joke and now she's amused by that joke. And the next one, she's more vulnerable to amusement by the next one. So, lots of fun to be had there. So let's take a look at this article. And then I'm gonna drop a few bombshells on these assholes, because let's be real. The conservative women are more attractive. This is science. So in March, the 27-year-old actress, it all began with Sydney Sweeney's cleavage. Okay, I'm going to show you a clip of her from Saturday Night Live in just a minute. If you're not familiar with Sydney Sweeney, though, there's a good picture. So Sydney Sweeney is a not quite 30-ish blonde hot chick who basically, like, that's her career. Being beautiful is her career. It's what she's an actress. So in March, the 27-year-old actress hosted Saturday Night Live for the first time, wearing low-cut outfits during the start and close of the show, which featured a number of jokes about her physical appearance, including a sketch where she played a Hooters waitress. So I want to show you guys. This is a clip from the middle of the opening of that show.
It was always my dream to be an actor. When I was younger, my parents drove me from Spokane to Los Angeles just to audition. That's a 19-hour drive. And I'm so grateful to them for believing in me. And I think the reason they did is because I presented them with a 5-point plan to break into acting. It was a PowerPoint presentation, and I still have it. Check it out. It says, audition, get an agent, do commercials and short films, then get my SAG card. But if that failed, I also presented them with a backup plan. Next slide.
See, and okay, I appreciate a person who doesn't take themselves too seriously. That was a solid joke. It was. And I mean, yeah, the girl's got a big set of boobs. But the fact is, she's also generally healthy. She's symmetrical, right? And I don't know if you noticed this, but she's smiling.
While I'm up here, I do want to talk about some stuff I've seen about.
So she's smiling. She's happy. She's comfortable with who she is. That's all pretty solid. Well, the article goes on and says, at the time, Sweeney's appearance sparked much discourse and was lauded by a number of right-wing commentators as the death of woke. The actress had become a so-called conservative hot girl, a pinup for the modern-day right-wing movement as it attempts to expand the appeal of conservatism beyond the confines of its largely older white male base. Okay. That accusation right there, that conservatism is restricted to a largely older white male base. I mean, guilty, sure, fair enough. But I want you guys to take a little solace here and understand that while we've got the awfuls, right, the affluent white female liberals who are all going to vote for Kamala because, well, they want to kill their children. And to be very clear, for a lot of these women, their obsession with abortion is rooted not in this idea that somehow it equates to medical care, which it clearly doesn't. I mean, murder is never medicine, right? Even when you get into the questions of euthanasia, you're old and sick and hurt and suffering and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The argument that you're being cured so that you can live a better, because that's what cure is, healing. Healing is removing the illness so that you can live on. Euthanasia is surrendering to the pain. And I'm not even saying that's not an option. There is such a thing as bankruptcy. And sometimes that bankruptcy is moral. Sometimes that bankruptcy is aesthetic. Sometimes that bankruptcy is physical. But the argument that somehow surrendering to it is medicine? No. Similarly with abortion is not healthcare. These affluent white female liberal women are, well, they resent their children. They want to make sure that you can kill their children, that you can kill your children because they regret not killing their own. And we only have to look at their actual comments for that. I think it was, I may have this wrong, but I think it was Amy Schumer that said she wished she had had an abortion. She was on a stage with her adult daughter when she said she wished she'd had an abortion. And then she later went on to clarify, well, no, I meant I wish I'd had another pregnancy so that I could have had an abortion. Like, what? Right. That's who these psychopaths are. Amy Schumer's a good example for this conversation as well, because you want to talk about a bitch that's just hard to look at. And amusingly, technically, she looks by description similar to Sydney Sweeney, right? If you were to give a general description to the police, well, who stole your wallet? Well, she was, about 5'5", long blonde hair, kind of top heavy, and that description, amusingly, average size blonde woman with large breasts does not guarantee a beautiful woman. Does not. So you look and okay. Before I say you look and we get to the New York Fashion Week stuff, I want to get back to the article for just a minute, because they mentioned pinups. Okay, pinups are guys like pinups, right? Especially when you get down range, you get into a combat zone. You've got the pinups down there, and some of that is lewd, yes, but there is an important aesthetic art style to the pinup, because the pinup is not all about sexuality, sexy women. It is about longing. It is about absence. Because when you're at war, if you're having sex with anybody while you're downrange, you're doing something wrong. You're making a huge mistake on so many levels. Now, me, I was married and faithful when I went to war. I had one incident in Bagram. They had a massage parlor on base, and it was mostly staffed by Kyrgyzstani women. And I went and got I'm talking therapeutic massage. Like, we did a 10-mile ruck march for training one day, and my back hurt, and I went to get a back rub. And of course, I'm laying on the table, and not wearing a wedding ring downrange, right? That was something I kept. I kept it nearby and safe, but I didn't carry it on me when I was in uniform. I didn't wear it when I was in uniform most of the time. Because that's bad operational security. When you work in the places that I worked, having something that announces to the enemy that there's a vulnerability that can be exploited, is dangerous. It puts your wife in peril. But I go in for my massage, and reasonably attractive, probably mid-20s Kyrgyzstani girl comes and starts rubbing my back and doing a good job. She's actually doing like deep tissue massage, not just a cursory excuse for a happy ending type of bullshit like you might find in some cheap massage parlors. But then she starts talking, Mr. Soldier Man, big soldier man, you need good wife, take back to States. I'm like, whoa, honey, whoa, right? And that was one where I'm looking around and checking for microphones. For like, look, I'm married, sweetheart. Which is, I'm legit here for essentially medical attention. But that's definitely something that happens over there, and it's so the pinup thing. Sergeant Major says pinups are about red lipstick and high heels. Yes. Funny enough, Dad, Fee and I were having a conversation about this last night. One of the positions of the Nazis was that a beauty is pure and natural, and I'm with that argument. I am, but as a mechanism of sort of propaganda and psychological warfare, anytime a female soldier, official, anybody in the U.S. government had to deal with Nazis, they would paint that makeup on an inch thick, and they'd wear bright red lipstick. Whenever you see that bright ruby red lipstick, right? Like, this is something I learned from my wife last night, and I had to do a little reading on this morning. Whenever you see that bright red lipstick, that is called victory red, and it was explicitly they wore it to kind of put a thumb in the eye of the Nazis, and that just made the victory red so much more beautiful in theory now. So this article goes on to ask the question, who is the conservative hot girl? The conservative hot girl isn't a particularly new phenomenon. Oh, isn't a particularly new phenomenon. Wait, let's go back up here. How hot girls became the right's new obsession. That's a funny thing about articles from these, these people are dishonest. They're inherently dishonest, right? And that's the thing about articles like this. Like, go read some of the Trump indictment articles. You'll see this headline that's like, Trump defrauded banks, and then somewhere around paragraph 7 or 9, you'll see by the way, all the banks said that they were not defrauded. He paid back all the loans with interest on to early in most cases, and they really, really, really want to do business with them again. So there's no victim in the crime. Oh, that seems like maybe you should have led with that, you liars. So the conservative hot girl isn't a particularly new phenomenon. Victoria Khan, an associate professor at the University of East Anglia in the UK, told Newsweek, women have been positioned through the lens of masculinist imagery in conservative populist politics for a very long time. Is that right? Okay. Let me say something very honestly. Right? This women have been positioned through the lens of the masculinist imagery in conservative populist politics for a very long time. I like pretty girls. And so do you. On the left, they hate that they like pretty girls. Right? It's a second order desire. They want to detest, and they go out of their way to do so. They want to hate everything that is beautiful and good. Right? I've talked about this before. The Democrats will not vote on a policy, for example. Right? They can have a bill in front of them that gives them everything they want in a particular instance. We've seen it happen time and time again. They will vote down a bill that is entirely beneficial to their political position if you cannot point to a place in the law where it explicitly causes harm to another person. Cameron has talked about it on the show, told the story about sitting down at a bar and talking to a chick about Trump tax cuts and basically explaining to her, well, the Trump tax cuts that he did when he was first elected, he wants to do that again. And basically, Trump cut taxes for everybody. So my taxes went down and the billionaires' taxes went down. Everybody got tax cuts. And she said, oh, well, that's bullshit. Well, I don't want it then. They don't want a steak dinner unless they can watch you take it from somebody who earned it. I cannot think of anything uglier. I mean, just really, truly ugly than living with that kind of jealousy and resentment that you can't be happy having something good unless you know that it hurts someone for you to get it. Now, this idea that women have been positioned through, I'm reading again, through the lens of masculinist imagery in conservative populist politics for a very long time. Shut up. Men have liked pretty women for a long time. A man looks at a woman and he thinks, could she be a good mate? Now, inadequate men, weak men, men who lack dedication and commitment, they look at a woman and they have the same thought. Plus, and is she going to try to call me back in the morning? Right? So, yes, you have low filth out there that engage in recreational, habitual recreational serial sex, serial one night stand guys, right? Look at Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother is like a caricature of that phenomenon. But let's take a look. Let's talk about aesthetics, okay? So this is an image from New York Fashion Week this year. These are generally pretty girls, but what have they done with the aesthetic here? Okay, this one, she's showing off some legs, she's showing off that midriff, right? She's a bit of a beanpole, not especially, she's no Sydney Sweeney, right? But you'll notice they all have this incredibly serious expression on their faces, right? Pop over to this one. Every one of these women has just this painfully serious expression on their faces. And these outfits, they're all chronically underfed. They're showing off a little nipple there. That's unfortunate for this image, but they're all chronically underfed, slim women. These are, one does not look at these girls and think, now that's a girl that can feed my babies, right? But this is also from that same New York Fashion Week. Totally different aesthetic here. And it's even almost the same color scheme as the previous one. You got the black and the gold. But look at that. You got a big smile on the face. They look happy to be there. And then you've got this one that just, like, she's not even making a serious face. She just looks unhappy to be there. She just looks like she hates that she's here, right? But this one and this one, they got the big smiles on their faces. They're legitimately happy to be doing what they're doing. They look good. That's beautiful, right? So let's take a look. There's been a lot of mimetic work done around this. You get the compare and contrast. Here's your Democrat voters. Here's your Republican voters, right? Here's your Democrat vote, your liberal women, right? And here's your Republican women. And we say women loosely because, not because these women are loose. and in fact, I'd go so far as to say none of these women are loose in the way that you might use that word, because these women are too moral to do it, and these women are too ugly to accomplish it. Oh, but the hot, you can search. Yeah. So to be clear, for safety's sake, I went ahead and searched this on Twitter or on X earlier, and I scrolled way down to make sure, because X is pretty good, but sometimes, depending on what you search, you're taking your life into your hands. X is not devoid of inappropriate material. But in this case, I think we struck gold with. I can scroll down and there's I searched the phrase "hot MAGA women," and okay, there's nothing particularly MAGA about this image, but it's a person who's making the claim that American women that vote for Trump are not only hot, but also mentally stable. That's a big deal. And that's something, like I was alluding to earlier with the Platonic forms and beauty and the connection to the divinity and the good. Part of what you perceive when you see someone that is beautiful, it's not just the physical appearance, right? Long, clean, healthy hair, trim fit, large chest, the things that make a woman like generically, aesthetically attractive to the eye, symmetry, etc. That's not enough. You've seen it. I guarantee you've seen it out there. You've seen women who should be beautiful, and there's something off about them. That is not a physical detail that you're going to be able to point at. That is a moral quality. It is a moral quality that you observe not just by seeing the visual that's presented. There's an intangible, a je ne sais quoi. And that's part of what Plato was talking about, right? Plato would talk, you talk about what is the form of a chair, right? And if you think about what a chair is, well, a thing that serves the purpose of a chair can be called a chair. So if I can sit on it comfortably, in fact, if it has the purpose of being sat upon, does that make it a chair? Well, no, because we have things called stools, and a stool is definitely not a chair. That's why we have two words. A bench, in many ways, by definition, by category, is the same thing as a chair. But if you see a bench, a stool, and a chair, you know the difference between the three. If there's a rock that happens to be the right size, maybe sitting next to your fire pit, that is good to sit on, does that make it a chair? No. It may participate partially in the form of chair, but it lacks a certain quality. And it's not any particular thing you could point to exactly. Right? It's the question of, well, a man is a featherless, flightless bird. Well, no, I'm featherless, I'm flightless. There are birds that are featherless and flightless that are birds, but I am clearly not a bird. There's a certain quality there. And, we talk about how to instruct a child in acquiring this kind of, it's almost a sixth sense that we're talking about, this ability to recognize the aesthetic of beauty and to understand its participation in the moral good and the divinity. Think about trying to teach a child that has not yet acquired the concept what the difference is between a cat and a dog, right? You can show them, basically you have to go through it over and over again. This is not a dog. This is not a dog. This is not a dog. This is a dog, right? It's almost more important to recognize what it is that does not participate in the form of dogness in order to identify what a cat is, right? Because it's a four-legged animal with fur, and it has ears on the top of its head. It has more of a snout than a nose. Try sometime to describe a cat without saying that it is a cat, and not find yourself also describing a dog, a rat, a bear, a wolf, etc. And even there, scientifically, we have difficulty with the categorical distinctiveness between things like wolves, dogs, and bears. They're different in kind, not type. I may have that backwards, but yeah. So that I think I've beaten this topic sufficiently to death. But I want to close with this. just going back to the article for a moment, the conservative hot girl isn't particularly new phenomenon. According to Victoria Cann, an associate professor at the University of East Anglia. And then Amy Tatum of Bournemouth University told Newsweek that this focus on hot girls is a way of the right to the U.S. to fight back against perceptions of wokeness. Amy Cann. And then attends the Fair Oscar party hosted by Radhika Jones. Okay, that's not relevant to the point that I'm about to make. So here you've got a man quoted giving a comment, and then you've got the author of that piece, Amy Ham. Oh, let's see. She, and then that point was echoed by Inez Fletcher. Are you seeing a pattern here? So part of the question here, right? The headline begins with why, how did hot girls become the right wing's new obsession? And then they went and asked a bunch of women. Now, this is not a novel point. Matt Walsh made this point too, but so you've got this feminist who basically hates because she's not one of these hot girls. She's a hateful and unattractive person. Let me see if I can find a picture of the author. Oh no, there it is. Marnie Rose McFall. Okay. And she's perfect for this illustration. Right? She's perfect for this illustration. This girl, by definition, could very much be attractive. But she's a feminist. And look at her. Right? She's going out of her way to be unattractive. With the half-lidded eyes, she looks like she's not awake. She looks like she's attempting to be aloof and disinterested, right? This is an unattractive person. And she doesn't have to be. She's generally symmetrical. She looks like she's relatively fit, but she's trying to be unattractive. Maybe she just didn't get hit on enough. Oh, I love my wife. Hussies don't like to support women. Women like to support women. So this chick wonders, why do men like pretty girls? And she goes and asks a bunch of feminists, a bunch of blue-haired, screaming psychopaths, why men like pretty girls. So you've got this echo chamber effect going on as well. And the last thing I'll bring up, I'm going to go back to that image from the New York Fashion Week again. The beauty standards that are referenced by these women when they talk about what beauty is and what the enforced standards are, what women are supposed to look like to be beautiful, et cetera, et cetera. These standards are set by women being judgmental of one another and cruel to one another. Not set. That's the enforcement mechanism. Men will tell you you're pretty. Most of the time, random men out in the world will tell you you're attractive. They'll tell you you're beautiful. Happens to me all the time. But they will not walk up and say, "Damn, you're a huge bitch." That just doesn't happen randomly. "Hey girl, you're so fat. Hey, did you brush your teeth this morning? Hey, no. If you've got the unattractive qualities, at worst you're going to be ignored and avoided. But the beauty standards that are set in the fashion world they're not set by women. I'm sorry, they're not set by healthy women or straight men. Those beauty standards are set by gay men and angry feminists. It is an industry that has been captured by the adherents of Derrida and Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir and Foucault, psychotic communist sociopaths who wrote doctoral treatises on the argument that all sex is inherently violent. That a man and a woman cannot have consensual sex because of their anatomical configuration, that all sex is inherently actually rape. That's an argument put forward by Simone de Beauvoir and echoed by Foucault. No, Sartre. This is one of my favorite fat jokes. Thank you, dear. Man, I know 5 fat chicks and you're 4 of them. But that's, the standard, like I said, these standards are not set by men. We know what we like, and it ain't hard. It's boobs, okay? It's boobs. So let me remind you when I say that, what men like is boobs. They are not exactly going out of their way here, right? You got this one on the end that's in like a see-through shirt and kind of showing off a little too much. Hope that doesn't get me pulled off of YouTube, but these women aren't shaped like women. They're shaped like 10-year-old boys. For the sake of retaining this particular conversation on the internet, I'm not going to go any further in making specific suggestions about what motivation you can interpolate from that assertion. But these women are not shaped like men, or like women. They're shaped like 10-year-old boys. So I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in it there. I want to say thanks to you guys for watching this morning. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow.